So before we recite Srimad Bhagavatam, we must try our best to glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam in order to receive the mercy from Srimad Bhagavatam. Just Krishna, he showers mercy directly. He showers mercy to the holy name. He showers mercy to Mahaprasad, Jagannath Prasad. He showers mercy, manifests, incarnates in the form of Shri Guru, spiritual master, and also manifesting in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam. As Krishna, this incarnation of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna directly appearing there in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Krishna, he is the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So to hear Krishna and to understand Krishna, it requires great mercy from Krishna. And to understand Srimad Bhagavatam also, we must offer our most respectful obeisances to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and to act in such a way, and to think in such a way, how to get the mercy from Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada explains that the Shastra also gives kripa, gives mercy. So we should not approach it from academic point of view. Krishna will never reveal himself, Srimad Bhagavatam will never reveal if we approach by this way. It says only by bhakti, only by a mood of loving devotion does Krishna reveal himself to us. Prabhupada says you can be literate or illiterate. It doesn't matter. If you open your heart and your mind and you hear Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam from proper source, the book Bhagavata and devotee Bhagavata, Grantha Bhagavata, Bhakta Bhagavata, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So this mood of service, then we may receive mercy from the Bhagavatas, from the book and from Sadhu, Guru, Vaishnavas. So mercy is required to actually understand Srimad Bhagavatam in tattva, not theoretically or academically, but practically. It's a question of revelation. Therefore we glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course I cannot really glorify properly, but still I'm trying how to get that mercy. So it's explained that the Srimad Bhagavatam, the essence of all the Vedic literature and all histories have been collected in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So of all the Vedic literatures, the essence of all of the Vedic teachings, and all of the histories, everything is there within the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, even if all of the books in the world and the libraries of the world were burnt to ashes, as long as Srimad Bhagavatam was there, then everything is there. There's no requirement of any other book, because the essence, everything is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all the Vedanta philosophy. One who has felt nectar satisfaction from its nectarian mellow will never be attracted to any other literature. So without getting mercy from the Srimad Bhagavatam and getting a taste for hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam, then we will be attracted by asat, so much other rubbish, Prabhupada calls it so much other rubbish information and literature. So we must receive a higher taste, then we'll not be interested in all of this asat. So to get that taste, that requires mercy. We cannot just catch it on our own, right? And it's explained that Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives direct information of the mellow derived from serving Krishna. So all the mellows, all the rasa that is there in serving Krishna, everything is revealed there in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's between Krishna and Krishna's devotees, and what is that loving relationship? That is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam, it is above all other Vedic literatures. It's the topmost Vedic literature, the cream, the essence of all the Vedanta philosophy. Srila Vyasadeva, he collected whatever Vedic conclusions were there in 4 Vedas and 108 Upanishads, and he placed them in the codes of Vedanta Sutra. In Vedanta Sutra, the purpose of all of the Vedic knowledge is explained in that Vedanta Sutra. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, the same purpose has been explained in 18,000 verses. Srila Vyasadeva has presented the Vedanta philosophy for the deliverance of the conditioned souls. But if one hears commentary of Shankaracharya, hears from Mayavadis, then everything will be spoiled. If you want to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, then you must approach self-realized Vaishnava, and you must hear from him, you must study from him. And you can do this when you have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So without taking shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's no question of developing bhakti, developing love for Krishna. He is prema purushottama. So without bhakti, without prema, we cannot understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. Not by jnana, not by scholarship. These things we'll discuss in the class today. But by bhakti. And without being at the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his dear devotees, Gaura Priyajanas, there's no question about purifying our consciousness, what to speak of developing prema, or love for Krishna. So without that prema, without love by the mercy of Mahaprabhu and his dear devotees, then there's no question of understanding the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna says, only by loving devotion can I be known. And if you come in a mood of loving devotion by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, then Krishna said, then I will reveal myself to you. So these prayers are helping us to glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam and to meditate and to try to understand the greatness, the greatness of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that these are not ordinary words and it should not be approached in a materialistic or mundane fashion. So before we recite Srimad Bhagavatam, we offer our most respectful obeisances unto the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we'll turn to the text. You don't have patience to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam? There's some disturbance in your mind about glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam? Then how will you get mercy of Srimad Bhagavatam? If you love someone and someone is glorifying that person that you love, you'll be happy and joyful. Isn't it? So if you love Srimad Bhagavatam, then you will love to hear the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it will give you so much inspiration and faith and mercy. And therefore we can begin to try to understand really what is Srimad Bhagavatam from absolute platform, transcendental platform, not the mundane academic platform. That will not satisfy Krishna and that will not satisfy our souls. It may a little temporarily satisfy your intellect or your mind, but this also will not last. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 5th canto, the creative impetus, and it's chapter 16, a description of Jambu Dweep. Please be patient with me, all of these different words and all of this. I may not be so expert, please just be a little patient, please pray for me, but try to catch the essence, try to hear Krishna, try to hear Bhagavatam. Don't let me get in the way of that. Please, I beg for that. And today we're on text number 7? 8, okay. I'm getting many interesting informations about the classes. Krishna's really testing me. He's giving me different numbers. Then we have to be completely dependent. That's good. Many times we write many notes and all of this thing, what I'm going to say and how to explain this in an intellectual and academic way and this and that, and we get all in anxiety, right? We're writing all of this thing, and then you go to speak and you're looking for your paper, it's like you cannot find it. How many times does that happen? Where's my notes? I prepared everything, this, that. Then Krishna's teaching, you just depend on me. I'm in your heart. I'm the source of all knowledge and intelligence. You depend on me. I'll give you intelligence. The Dami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Not that we shouldn't study, but we shouldn't overly depend on this other process. So text 8. Do we have any really, really qualified brahmanas who can chant this properly? Anybody? Okay, so I'll try. I'll also try. Please repeat. Uttara uttarena ilavritam Am I right? I'm doing good? Nila Shveta Shringavan Iti Chaya Ramyaka Hiranmaya Kurunam Vashanam Mayada Giraya Prakayata Upayata Sharuta Abhadhaya Ji Sahasra Pitava Yojanas Ekasha Purvasmat Uttara Dasha Amsha Adhika Amshena Dargya Eva Prashanti. Pray for me. Uttaro Tarena La Ritam Nila Shveta Shringavan Ititayo Ramyaka Hiranyamaya Kurunam Vashanam Mayada Giraya Prag Ayata Abhayata Sharodava Dayo Dvi Sahasa Pitava Ekaikasha Purvasmat Uttaro Dasham Shadikam Shena Daigya Eva Vashanti. Anybody want to try that? Please repeat. Uttara Uttarena. Actually, why don't I just read the translation? Okay, because it might be easier to follow that, as this is very, very technical information, and we'll understand by mercy of Bhagavatam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Just north of Ilavrita, Varsha, and going further northward, one after another, are three mountains named Nila, Shveta, and Shringavan. These mark the borders of the three Varshas named Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, and Kuru, and separate them from one another. The width of these mountains is 2,000 yojanas, or 16,000 miles. Lengthwise, they extend east and west to the beaches of the ocean of salt water. Going from south to north, the length of each mountain is 1/10 that of the previous mountain, but the height of them is all the same. purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this regard, Madhvacharya, he quotes the following verses from the Brahmanda Purana. Yatha Bhagavate Tuktam Bhuvanam Kosha Lakshanam Tasya Virod Hatho Yojam Anya Ghantan Thare Stitam Mandodhe Puranam Chaiva Vyadhyasam Shira Sagare Rahu Soma Ravinam Cha Mandalati Gunohitam Vinaiva Sarvam Uneyam Yojana Vedato Chatu. It appears from these verses that aside from the sun and the moon, there is an invisible planet called Rahu. The movements of Rahu cause both solar and lunar eclipses. We suggest that the modern expeditions attempting to reach the moon are mistakenly going to Rahu. Namo Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Gaur Govinda Swaminiti Namane. Namo Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Puchane Nevishesha Shunyavadi Pashtita Deshitane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasudeva Shri Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this information is not possible to think it up with your mind. It's impossible. This materialistic mind, the materialistic intelligence, scientific knowledge, sense perception, we cannot think, we cannot understand all of this information, especially when apparently it seems to go against common sense, that how is it we didn't go to the moon? That's a pretty amazing statement, because everyone is putting so much faith in the scientists, and whatever they say, everyone is taking it as a gospel. They're taking it as absolute. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam and acharyas are directly challenging, based on scientific knowledge that was spoken since time immemorial, not by an experimental process, which is speculative at best. Therefore, it's a question of accepting authorities in order to gain knowledge. We can accept the authority of the scientists and all of their so-called theories, which are constantly changing, or we can accept Srimad Bhagavatam. We can accept what the Mahajanas, what the previous acharyas have said. We accept that authority, because we're trying to understand something that is not of this world, is out of this world. So therefore we have to accept authority from that world, who know that place. Therefore, Prabhupada explains that Bhagavan and Bhakti, Bhakta, they're not of this material world. They're of the spiritual world. So unless Krishna comes, He's the source of all knowledge and intelligence, He's the speaker of the Vedas. Unless Krishna comes, or Krishna's devotee comes from that place, that fourth dimensional place, which is beyond the 3 dimensions of our material senses, unless they explain it to us and by their mercy reveal it to us, there's no question of understanding it or being able to put unflinching faith in that process. Srila Prabhupada is speaking in the Srimad Bhagavatam in Vrindavan in October 26, 1972. And Srila Prabhupada was explaining that there is another world. that we get information from the Bhagavad Gita. Paras tasmat tu bhava anya. There is another nature which is sanatana, which is eternal. This world, this material world, is not eternal. Just like we have got this body, this is not eternal. It is temporary. It has some particular date of its birth, and it has got some particular date of its annihilation. Similarly, the gigantic body of the universe, it is created at a certain date, and it will be annihilated at a certain date. This is the material world. But there is another world, and that information we get from the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature, the spiritual world. So this material world is only 1/4 of the whole creation. Now we have to be like Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj strictly followed the instructions of his spiritual master, as it is, with great determination. And because he did that, he got the mercy of his spiritual master. And he was able to directly perceive the Lord, Paramatma Chetaguru, within his own heart, and was fixed in that trance. And then ultimately, the Lord himself appeared before Dhruva Maharaj. And he was a 5-year-old boy. The Lord directly manifested in front of Dhruva Maharaj. 5-year-old boy, he had no formal education. And Srila Prabhupada explains that Dhruva, because first he got disturbed, and then finally the Lord directly manifested, and he wanted to offer some prayers. Out of humility, he wanted to offer prayers to his Ishtadev. But because he was a 5-year-old boy, and because he was not formally educated, then he could not know what to think or what to say. He knows what he wants to do, but something like that was there. So the Lord is in his heart of his devotee, and he could understand, oh, my devotee wants to offer prayers to me. But he's a 5-year-old boy feeling some disqualification. So therefore he showered mercy on Dhruva Maharaj, isn't it? And he took the conch shell, and he put the conch shell right on the head of Dhruva Maharaj, that 5-year-old boy. And by that conch shell, by that mercy of the Lord, then Dhruva Maharaj could directly, the whole spiritual world and all creation, everything opened up in his spiritual eye. And then he could understand what is the spiritual world, what is creation, how to speak, how to offer prayers to the Lord. So we have no real education. This material education is actually an impediment because we're too much depending upon it. So to really understand it and to see it and to realize it in the true sense of the word, it requires tremendous mercy from Krishna, from Guru, Shuguru, from Srimad Bhagavatam. So to speak it, we need mercy. And to hear it, and to understand it and realize it, also mercy is required. Let's try not to sit with our mind and intelligence and psychoanalyze the speaker, what he knows, what he doesn't know, who is he, who is that, this, that. Don't become proud and think, oh, what is he going to say? I already know everything. Because this pride and arrogance is there. This is, Krishna says, this demoniac quality. So how we can maintain pride and arrogance and demoniac qualities and get mercy from Krishna, get mercy from Vaishnava, get mercy from Srimad Bhagavatam. So we must get rid of all of this pride and arrogance, and we must submissively hear in a humble state of mind, because after all it is Krishna speaking. If you're thinking in material consciousness that I'm speaking, then with your senses and your mind you'll just criticize and find some flaw. Certainly there's flaw. But if we have faith that Krishna is the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll not try to hear Krishna with our material mind and intellect and material senses. We'll try to understand and hear Krishna from the platform of the soul. This is most important, very subtle, but very important distinction must be there. So here Prabhupada is talking about the spiritual world and how the material world is only 1/4 of the whole creation. And then in the spiritual world, the number of living entities, they are also unlimited. So this information we have to hear. Prabhupada says, submissive oral reception, hearing with rapt attention. Srila Prabhupada explains one should be perfectly anxious how to hear Krishna. So this information we have to hear from authorities. We have to hear from Krishna, and we have to hear from Mahajanas. Mahajana yena gitasa panta. We must follow, hear and follow in the path of the Mahajanas. Therefore, this word is called Shotavya, Prabhupada says. So therefore, Vedic knowledge is called Shruti. It has to be acquired by hearing. If we don't know how to hear properly, then how we can actually get proper knowledge? Prabhupada says Shruti means acquiring knowledge by hearing, not by seeing, not by your experimental knowledge. That is not possible, because it is beyond our sense perception. Don't try to understand by false argument, dry argument, which is beyond your conception, beyond your reach. Simply, it is a waste of time. Then how will you know? How will you come to understand it? Prabhupada says, now Shotavya, you have to hear. That is the only means. So Prabhupada in one place says, factually the path of bhakti is path of hearing. Not our minds, not our intellects, not our senses, but hearing Krishna, hearing absolute truth. Imprompera. Prabhupada says here, the example I have given several times, just like if you want to know who is your father, it is to be this Shotavya. From where? From the authority, my mother. If you want to know who is your father, you have to go to the authority, the mother, and say, Mother, who is our father? Who is my father? Then she can say, then we can hear that, then we can understand who is our father. Prabhupada gives this example many, many times. You cannot manufacture your knowledge who is your father. You cannot speculate and manufacture and understand. No, you cannot speculate. That is not possible because it is beyond your reach. The Father was existing before your birth. So how can you understand the Father? By your experimental knowledge. So this information we're reading today, by experimental knowledge, or by mental speculation, or by the power of our intellect, can we understand all of these things? Can we realize all of these things? We might memorize it and repeat it. Like the Prabhupada says, don't be like a parrot. You must realize it. So to realize it, we must hear from Krishna. We must hear. Prabhupada says here, similarly the Vedas are mother of knowledge. Puranas are sisters of knowledge. So we have to consult from the Vedas and from the right person. Tad Vijnanatam Sagurum Eva Abhigachet. From the Guru. Not that you purchase one book in Vedas from the market and then now you become a Vedantist. No, that is not possible. You must go to Guru to properly understand it. These are the injunctions, these are the instructions. Shotavya, this is the process. Tadvidi pranipatena. You have to hear by surrendering. Prahlad Maharaj, and he's talking about Navada Bhakti, ninefold processes of Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanavedam. Ninefold processes of Bhakti. But Prahlad Maharaj explains that before you can do even Shravanam, What to speak of all of those ninefold processes? First, you have to completely surrender. Without complete surrender, you cannot hear. You cannot do any other bhakti. Prabhupada explains here, you have to hear by surrendering. First of all, you have to find out where can you surrender. Because everyone is big man. Huh? Why he shall surrender? So unless he finds out somebody who he can surrender to, then that is the beginning of transcendental knowledge. Shrotavya. So who can be a bigger personality than Krishna? So hear from Krishna, hear from Vyasadeva, hear from Narada, hear from their representative, Narada's representative, Vyasadev's representative, Madhva Muni. Similarly, in the parampara system, Evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo vidhu. So we have to catch up the parampara, disciplic chain, bona fide spiritual master, and from him we have to hear, Shrotavya. Only this way we can truly understand it. So this point of hearing from authorities in order to realize that which is beyond our perception, this is the requirement of how we can get knowledge. That verse is there, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyo Na Medhaya Na Bahuda Shutena Yam Avesha Vrinute Tena Labhyas Tashaisha Atma Vivnute Tanum Svam. This is from Katha Upanishad. It's explained that you cannot know this tattva, absolute truth. You cannot know Krishna. You cannot understand this Paramatma tattva or Isha tattva through your mundane scholarship. You cannot understand through your mundane intelligence. Medhaya. You cannot understand listening to many pravachanas of karmis, jnanis, yogis. Those who never come under bona fide disciplic succession. It's explained they're not devotees. So without surrendering and hearing in bona fide disciplic succession, there's no question of doing bhakti or being devotee, really, in the true sense of the term. And therefore we cannot come to know it. We cannot understand the absolute truth. So how do we come to know it? This verse is explaining that Krishna, he comes in the form of Guru. Acharyamam Vijhaniyat. Krishna says, know me as the Acharya. Krishna is the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Krishna, Paramatma Chetaguru, he assumes a body. So Krishna says, I'm in the heart of all living entities, from me comes knowledge and intelligence. But we can't hear him because our consciousness is still so contaminated. So many doubts, so many desires, so much sin, so much sinful reaction, so much material contamination is there. So because of a lack of purity and simplicity, it's very difficult for us to hear Paramatma Chetaguru, Krishna within the heart. Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita purport that out of all of the instructions that Krishna gave to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, the most important instruction is that he should surrender to the Supersoul situated within his own heart and take dictation and take direction from that Supersoul, Paramatma, Chetaguru. That is how Krishna is helping us. Guru, Shastra, Atma Rupe. 3 ways that Krishna is helping. So he's helping internally as Paramatma Cetaguru, giving intelligence and knowledge. Then he can understand, oh, this person could not really hear me because consciousness is still confused, still contaminated, still disturbed. So therefore Krishna comes and steps out of your heart and assumes the form in the body of the spiritual master. Sakshat Daridvain Asamasta Shastra. That means that as Krishna, in the form of the Guru. That's why we say bona fide Guru is pure via medium of Krishna. So Krishna can directly manifest and speak through the form of the spiritual master. That is non-different from Krishna. So Krishna is speaking internally. He's manifesting in the form of the Guru, Shri Guru. Therefore it's said that bona fide Guru is external manifestation of the Super Soul. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita it is explained that bona fide Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru, they're equal and identical manifestations of the Super Soul. So only the Super Soul, Paramatma Cetaguru, can give us that intelligence from within. Who is Guru? And how Krishna is manifesting that within the heart. And therefore Krishna is also manifesting in the form of the Shastra, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in these ways Krishna is revealing himself, incarnating himself, and giving us intelligence how we can approach him. So this Shri Guru or Guru Tattva is non-different than Paramatma Tattva. Same Tattva, because it's Krishna. And it's written everywhere in the Shastra, and many people speak about it, but it's explained that to practically realize that, not from theoretical or academic, not like parrot, but to practically realize that it requires Krishna to give us that intelligence and faith, how he's manifested within our own heart and how he's manifesting within the form of bona fide spiritual master. That requires tremendous purity and simplicity and seriousness for in spiritual life. Being completely dependent on Krishna for that intelligence, for that mercy, for that faith. Then one can understand it. Not by any other process. One whom Krishna chooses to reveal himself to. Only that person can see, only that person can understand it. Practically realize it. So if we are crying to Krishna within our heart and we want to understand this knowledge which is beyond our sense perception, and we're crying to Krishna, praying to Krishna, please, I want to understand it, I need to understand it. Prabhupada talks about being perfectly anxious and anxiety and extremely inquisitive to understand all of this knowledge, to hear Krishna. And because Krishna is in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma Cetaguru, then he can see, oh, my devotee is looking for me now. He's crying for me now. He's looking extremely inquisitive how to get this knowledge, how to apply this knowledge in his life. He's becoming very serious and sincere for wanting to approach me. Then Krishna can understand, yes, this person is serious and sincere for wanting to come to me, for wanting to understand it. And then Krishna, Paramatma Cetaguru, will make an arrangement somehow or other. You'll go to Guru, or Guru will come to you. But that arrangement is made by the Supreme Lord. And when that Guru speaks, because you cannot recognize Guru by your eyeballs, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says you recognize by your ears, by your hearing. So without simplicity and purity and faith in Krishna and how he manifests, how we can accept it, isn't it? So when we hear Krishna manifesting through pure via medium of bona fide spiritual master, then Krishna within our own hearts will give us intelligence and faith to understand what is the source of that person's knowledge. Srila Prabhupada explained, I'm just a puppet, isn't it? You make me dance, make me dance, make me dance as you like. You can make me a success or a failure as you like. You just use me, empower my words, manifest in my words, so that these words will cut through all of these modes of nature and all of this contamination which is covering the soul. And with your mercy and your potency, Yogeshwar, your supreme mysticism, you can enter into the soul of that living entity. And give intelligence and faith. So if Krishna is not revealing himself internally, and we have no genuine internal life or faith internally, where Krishna is reciprocating directly with us, then how will we have the intelligence and faith to understand how Krishna is manifesting externally in the form of Guru? Who will tell you that Krishna is there? Only Krishna can tell you. So if Krishna is revealing internally, then he'll reveal externally. Krishna says in Gita, my devotee, he always sees me. He always can hear me. And I always see him. Prahlad Maharaj, isn't it? He could see the Lord standing in that stone pillar. Clearly he could see, oh, my Lord is there. But all the demons, they could not see. What is this? Your Lord is there in that pillar. But the devotee, he could see it. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Baloka, what is it? This, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Balochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Balokayante Yam Shama Sundaram Achinta Guna Swarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Loving devotion is required. Krishna says, if you come in a mood of loving devotion, bhakti, I'll reveal myself to you. Dadami buddhi yogam tam, I'll give you intelligence, how practically you can know me, you can come to me. So bhakti, genuine, loving devotion and a desire to render loving service, that is the prerequisite for Krishna to reveal himself to us internally and externally in the form of Guru and Shastra. So without Mahaprabhu, without the association of Mahaprabhu's devotees, how will we develop bhakti, real bhakti? We pray to that Gaura Priya Jana, Mahaprabhu's Parampara, Gurudev. The lotus feet of our spiritual master is the only way in which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, by his mercy, one can cross over this ocean of material suffering and obtain, and get Krishna, obtain the mercy of Krishna. So without getting Mahaprabhu's mercy in the form of his devotee, representative, Guru in Mahaprabhu's line, we cannot even purify our consciousness and get out of Maya. What to speak of developing bhakti or real love for Krishna. That is the prerequisite, that is the requirement in order for Krishna to reveal himself. Internally, externally, or through Shastra. And Krishna says, if you don't do it in this way, and rather you try to do it by cultivating jnana, by your material intelligence, your material mind, and your sense perception, so-called scientific approach, then Krishna says, I will keep myself hidden from you. Krishna says, I am not always manifest to everyone everywhere. What is it? Naham Prakash Savasha. I keep myself hidden. If you try to approach me by your so-called intellect and your material process, thinking yourself a very great intelligent man, great scholar, great personality, with no love, no devotion, no surrender to Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu's devotees, Krishna says, I'll keep myself hidden from you. I'll never reveal myself. He'll not reveal internally, he'll not reveal himself externally, and he'll not reveal himself how he is the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because no bhakti. So without Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu's parampara, and without surrender and hearing in that parampara, there's no question of developing loving devotional desire, sentiment, mood, and practically doing it. This is important because how will all of this information from the spiritual world be transmitted to us, which is beyond our perception? If Krishna is not revealing internally and externally, and we cannot hear Krishna, then how we can understand it? Our mind and intelligence and senses are all three-dimensional. They can only perceive things in a three-dimensional format. But spiritual knowledge, transcendental knowledge, this is fourth-dimensional information. So how can we use this mind, intelligence, and senses, three-dimensional instruments, to understand fourth-dimensional information? We've not even understood that point. We're still trying to approach and understand everything by an academic, scientific, intellectual approach. So even the first thing we've not understood. That's why it says submissive oral reception. If we are asserting our intelligence, asserting our mind and senses, that means we're trying to assert and use three-dimensional instruments to understand fourth-dimensional information. So we must give up that faulty process. And we must rather be submissive. Submissive oral reception is required. Srila Prabhupada says even in schools and colleges, you go and you listen to the professor, you have to listen to what he's saying. Otherwise you cannot really understand it. So they may tell you something about some three-dimensional materialistic energies or elements and those activities amongst themselves. But they certainly cannot tell you about fourth-dimensional information about the spiritual world. Only persons from the spiritual world who practically know it and can see it and can realize it, only they can tell you something about it. Because they're from that place. That's why Prabhupada says, Bhakti, Bhagavan, Bhakta, they're not of this world. Everything here is Maya Jagat. This is external energy. Mama Maya. Isn't it? But that spiritual world, fourth-dimensional world, is Antaranga Shakti. This is Krishna's internal spiritual potency. And to understand Krishna's internal spiritual potency, to understand Krishna and everything related to Krishna, which is all fourth-dimensional in the spiritual world, it requires great mercy from Krishna and Krishna's representatives from that place, that they will reveal themselves and reveal this knowledge to us within the heart, within our spiritual mind, within the Shastra, within the Guru, hearing from the Guru. We say in the prayers to the spiritual master, Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chitite Korayaka. My only desire, Gurudev, is to purify my consciousness by hearing this Hari Katha, Krishna Katha. Because without purification of consciousness, by hearing from proper source, there's no question of purifying this material contamination which is covering the mind, intelligence, and senses. So without hearing from bona fide Guru, Mahaprabhu's Parampara, Krishna's Parampara, where Krishna is directly manifesting, without hearing in that Parampara, we cannot even purify our consciousness. What to speak of understanding fourth dimensional or spiritual information, which is beyond our sense perception. So submissive aura reception, Srila Prabhupada says, with rapt attention, listening very, very, very closely, but depending on mercy to hear it. Krishna says to Arjuna, I give you divine eyes. And all of a sudden, then Arjuna could see universal form of the Lord manifesting in front of him. So divine eyes, divine ears, that is required. You cannot use your materialistic ears and understand this information. No matter how hard you try, it's not by our strength or our intellect that we can understand it. That means we're asserting. We're not being submissive. We're not being open. We're not allowing this knowledge to descend from Krishna, from Guru, to Shastra. Therefore, we cannot truly understand it. You may think you read something and you understand something, even you can repeat it. Some people have this photographic mind, they can just read something and then just repeat it. Does that mean they've understood it? They've realized it? Is that Vijnanam? Or is it Jnanam? Jnana. Prabhupada said, don't be satisfied with Jnana. We're after Bhakti. Bhakti means Sanatan Dharma. Is it? That is the real Dharma, means Bhakti. And only by Bhakti can I be known, Krishna said. So without Bhakti, all we're left with at best is Jnana, which is also materialistic. Because the Jnanis, they're very proud of their intelligence. They're very proud of their scholarship and their parrot-like recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Such proud arrogance is there. Krishna says that's demoniac quality. So really it's explained that Jnanis, they are cheaters. They are great cheaters. Because they're cheating the sentiments of the people to just simply feed their unlimited need and desire for pratishta, for name and fame. This subtle sex life. You may have given up your gross sex life, but not so easy to give up this subtle sex life of name, fame, adoration, distinction. I'm special, I'm great, I'm advanced. Very deep-rooted problem. It's explained that without prema, you cannot get rid of that pratishta. Without getting a higher taste in prema, in bhakti, only then, Krishna says, can you let go of the lower taste. This pratishta is just like stool. Raghunath Das Goswami said it's the stool of a she-hog. You're running after name and fame, pratishta, proud of your scholarship, trying to strangle Krishna by your intellect and the so-called strength of your mind and senses. This is great stumbling block, great obstacle on the path of bhakti. Only thing we know is our false ego and our subtle material desires, our body and our mind. Nothing about the soul, nothing about the super soul, Paramatma, Atma, Sanatan Dharma, only theoretical. It can only be theoretical because no bhakti. Therefore intelligence will not come to you. Krishna will not give you intelligence. Krishna will hide himself. So Krishna hides himself from those who don't want to love him and serve him. And also Guru, Shri Guru, also hides himself We think we are the seers. Yes, I'll use my eyeballs and I can see and understand everything. Prabhupada said you're too proud of your eyeballs. Too much dependent on your material senses. So without sincerity and seriousness for bhakti, there is no question of understanding Guru. And there's no question of understanding Krishna. So when Krishna sees, oh, this person very sincerely, seriously looking for me, wants to surrender to me, he wants to develop loving relationship with me, now he's looking for me, I must help him. It says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that if a person says sincerely from the core of his heart, even once, on the platform of this soul, Krishna, from this day on, I am yours, then Krishna, immediately he takes a vow. This is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He takes a vow how to protect that soul, how to bring that soul back to him. So without a sincere cry from the soul, it's not possible. And Queen Kunti, she's praying about this education, good family, money, beauty, wealth, strength, all of these material assets is an impediment. And Prabhupada says in the purport that if you have all of these things, then you'll be very proud and very dependent on your money and your family and your intelligence and your beauty, whatever quality Krishna has given you in this body, you'll be overly dependent on that. And Krishna says as long as you're proud and materially dependent, that man cannot feelingly cry out to the Lord in a mood of bhakti, in a mood of dependence. Just like Draupadi, isn't it? When she was completely in trouble, she couldn't do anything to help herself. Then she just threw up her hands, isn't it? And she cried before the Lord, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And if the soul is crying like that, then Krishna runs to that place. He runs there to help us. And Prabhupada says the first installment of Krishna's mercy is that he will send you a bona fide spiritual master who is his own man. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets a guru. By the mercy of that guru, then you can get Krishna. Otherwise, not possible. Prabhupada says 2 mercies are required. And what is the prerequisite to get that mercy is one must be extremely serious and extremely sincere for getting Krishna, for loving Krishna, for surrendering to Krishna, for serving Krishna. If that is not our intention and we're not that serious and we're not that sincere for that bhakti, then Krishna says, I'll keep myself hidden, and bona fide sadhu guru also will keep himself hidden. We'll be blind. We'll have no divine eyes. We'll have no divine ears. We'll not understand it because the source of all intelligence will not give you that intelligence and realization. He'll not give you intelligence and faith from within your own heart. Savasya chaham hridisana matashmrite jnanam uponam cha. Krishna says, I'm in the heart of every living entity, and from me comes knowledge and intelligence. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. I'll give you intelligence from within. And Krishna says, if you want to forget me, you're not serious, I'll make you forget. You'll forget your soul, you'll forget the super soul, and you'll forget Sanatan Dharma. And then you'll just be Maya Das, not Krishna Das. So why this is important? Because if the spiritual world wants to give us this knowledge and information of that which is beyond our perception, how will we receive it? Unless we understand in tattva practically vijnanam, realizing these things, then how can we hear? How will the spiritual world be revealed to us? On the platform of the soul, not on the platform of the material intellect or mind. Therefore, Prabhupada says the path of bhakti, factually the path of bhakti is a path of hearing. Prabhupada explained that formerly there were no books. Their intelligence was so fine that just by hearing from proper source, they could understand everything. But because Kali Yuga is so degraded, nasty age, we can't remember anything, more or less. Therefore the books came. But the books, they also have to be read out loud so that we can hear the sound vibration. That sound vibration is non-different from Krishna. Krishna comes in the form of that transcendental sound vibration. But who can hear it? Who is serious for it? Who's perfectly anxious? Who's praying to the Lord in the heart and depending on the Lord in the heart for that intelligence and faith? Are we crying before Him? I need to understand it. I have to understand it. It's not deep enough. It's not realized enough. It's only theoretical, academic. So I can give some talks and everyone will think I'm great and intelligent and wonderful. But you won't get bhakti, you won't get Krishna by that mentality. So it must be discarded. Krishna says, Savadam Prijaja, abandon all of that. Just surrender to me. Don't worry about karma and gyan and yoga. Just do bhakti. Don't worry. I'll destroy your karma. I'll make you strong so you don't commit any sinful activities. And all your previous sinful reactions that you deserve, I'll also purify. Don't be afraid. Trust me. Prabhupada in many places said you must trust Krishna. Even one place Prabhupada said, isn't it that Prabhupada said even I may cheat you. Of course Prabhupada will never cheat us, but he's just making points. I may cheat you. But Krishna, He will never cheat you. Suridam Sarvabhutanam, Krishna says, I am your well-wishing friend and I'm within your heart. And He wants to help us. But we're not hearing Him. Krishna says, in all of your activities, depend on me. Work under my protection. Be fully conscious of me. Then you'll understand everything. Then you'll cross over all the obstacles of this conditional life by my grace, by my mercy. But then Krishna says, but if out of your false ego, puffed up, thinking yourself great, big false ego, then Krishna says, you won't be able to hear me because of that false ego. We're only hearing our stupid minds and putting too much faith and dependence in that. And therefore Krishna says, because of your false ego, you cannot hear me, you're lost. You will be lost. So without hearing Krishna internally and externally, we are lost. We are groping in the darkness. We don't know what to do, what not to do. Isn't it Prabhupada says, conditioned soul doesn't know what to do and what not to do. He's groping in the darkness, speculating. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe here, maybe there, maybe this, maybe that. It is not absolute. And without hearing from Krishna, we must make mistake. We must be lost. We must be getting lost. Therefore, we have to get rid of this false ego. We have to purify this mind and false ego in order to reach the soul. To be able to hear Krishna inside and out. Anyone have a question on this point? Please say. Ooh, I'm getting in big trouble today. This is my last day, my last class for some time, so certainly you have a little extra patience for me. You'll not die. The prasad's waiting. It's all right. Many times my Gurudev said, don't worry, you're not going to die. Be patient, try to hear Krishna instruction. Actually, this is food for our soul. We're busy every day feeding the body, and we're busy every day feeding our minds with so much knowledge, so much gyan, but we forgot to feed the soul. We're not feeding our soul, we're not getting food for our soul. Therefore, our souls have become very skinny. Big body, but soul very skinny. Therefore, we need food for the soul. Yes, the soul needs food. Prabhupada gives the example of that man with the fancy gold cage, and he has the bird in the cage, and every day he's just shining that golden cage, paying attention to that cage. Then he's forgetting to feed the bird. Then one man said, hey, that's a nice cage. It's a bird cage, right? Yes. You have nice bird? Oh yeah, yes, there's bird inside. Let me see your bird. Then he opens the door and the bird is like, just hanging on by a thread. That means our souls have become so skinny because we're not learning how to feed the soul. And once you get your soul fed, then you can understand who is Guru. Then you can understand where is Krishna manifesting. So Krishna, bona fide Guru, understands how to feed your soul. Guru means heavy. It reaches, his knowledge, his words reach your soul. And the opposite of Guru is Lagu. And Lagu means very light. Prabhupada was so powerful Vaishnava. Directly, Shakti Aveshavata, manifestation of Krishna. Therefore his words were so powerful they could penetrate the mind and intellect and senses and contamination of the senses and the modes of material nature. All these external things could be penetrated because Krishna is there. If Krishna wants to penetrate, who will stop it? So therefore, bona fide Guru is pure by a medium of Krishna. Sakshat Tarit Ben Asamasta Shastra. That's Krishna directly manifesting and speaking and chanting in front of us. Therefore, if that vibration enters into our ear and purifies all these coverings of the soul, it can be injected into the soul. That is the food for the soul. Then the soul can become very strong. Without that process, what will we understand about these descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam? About fourth dimensional world? Yes, please say.
To get the inspiration to hear, to follow that process.
To what?
To get the inspiration to hear or follow that process. We need mercy.
To get the inspiration to hear, do we need mercy?
To follow that process, like, okay, I'm sitting in the...
Of course you have to be inspired. Right? If you're not hungry, are you inspired to go search for something to eat? If you're starving, if your soul is starving, you'll be hankering and crying, where is there food for my soul?
But the thing is that, like, we say people are an illusion, that is why they don't understand.
Yes.
That the philosophy of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
So
how can they be inspired?
So how, like, for example...
I'll tell you how they'll be inspired. By the heavy lashes of Maya. They'll become very inspired very soon. Prabhupada says you can be inspired by hearing absolute truth. If you're intelligent enough, simple enough, pure enough. And if not, then you have to learn by heavy stick. Then now heavy lashes of Maya are required. Just like you see Durvasa Muni, right? He offended Ambarish Maharaj. So puffed up, arrogant guy. He could not see who was devotee. Then he commit aparad because he's a blind man. Because devotee's keeping himself hidden, Krishna's hiding because his pride and arrogance is there. So what happened? He has chakra now running behind him. Big chakra. Woo, woo. Huh? He could feel it on the backside. Big chakra. And wherever he went, that chakra was right with him. Now he was getting very, very nervous. And he was running everywhere. How do I get this chakra? This burning off of my back. I'm gonna just blow up. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna leave my body. Then all of a sudden he became very purified. And he got very submissive and very humble very fast. He got inspiration from the chakra. That is also Krishna. And Krishna says, Mama Maya, it's my Maya. I'm controlling my Maya. Maya, what is it? Maya Yakshena Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharam. I'm the controller of that Maya. It's Mama Maya. That is Krishna. She's servant of Krishna. So Krishna says, okay, they don't want to hear from me inside and out in the form of Guru and Shastra. Okay, maybe he'll start to be interested to hear once he starts getting heavy lashes of Maya. Okay, Maya, do your work. Do your thankless task. And then Maya, boom, boom, boom. And if you're an animal, if you're really low consciousness, callous, you can't even feel the pain. Then you can just pray for causeless mercy. Huh? But if you're a little bit intelligent, little wise, little bit like not two-legged animal, then you realize I'm suffering like anything. I'm in complete anxiety. I'm in a burning forest fire. I need relief. Sometimes it's said that, the drunkard, he's working like an ass all week long. And then he said, oh, I can't wait for Friday nights. I can't wait to go to the bar, to the club and get a drink, get some alcohol. He's getting mad. He says, if I don't get some alcohol in that club, I'm gonna go mad. That's materialist. Right? We saw on the way back from the farm one restaurant bar, it's called Mantra. Right? Mantra bar and discotheque. What is this mantra? Mantra means to purify, control your stupid mind. And you're going to do it by taking intoxications? If I don't get a drink real soon, I'm going to go mad. But the devotee should think, if I don't get some real sadhu sangha and hear some Hari Katha, Krishna Katha as soon as possible, I'm going to go mad. So we have to become extremely eager. Prabhupada says, just like the person who's intoxicated, addicted to intoxication, we should become addicted to doing sadhu sangha and hearing Hari Katha, Krishna Nam in that association. Because that's food for the soul. If I don't get food for my soul, I'm going to go mad. So we have to realize what is our position, what is our condition, what is our need. Otherwise, then we have to learn by the hard way. School of hard knocks. So what school do you want to be in? If we're submissive and humble and dependent on mercy of Guru and Krishna, and we hear right information from the right source that will completely purify our consciousness and spiritualize our intelligence, then we can understand all of these things. The mercy is required. So please, I don't want to go so long already. I'm also trying to get food for my soul. I'm very hungry. So I appreciate you allowing me to try a little bit to feed my soul by hearing Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. And before we finish, I also want to say that on behalf of all of the Western devotees, especially the Russian devotees, that we want to sincerely thank you for welcoming us here in Mumbai with loving friendship. We felt that, we feel that. We don't feel that we're some burden or that you don't want us here. We feel you want us here, and we appreciate, and we're very happy to have your association and to be able to reciprocate with you while we're going through this bhakti, process of bhakti, which is sometimes very difficult. Process of purification, very difficult. But with sincere, serious Vaishnavas, then it makes it much easier to go through that process. So we're very grateful that we have your association, and we hope in the future that we'll be able to come back again and again. And if we made some mistake, or you see we have some flaw or some problem, please try to overlook that. Of course, there's some mistakes are being made. Prabhupada says the man is in the shower and he's scrubbing himself, and then you're yelling at him, you're dirty. Why are you so dirty? The man's like, what can I do? I'm in the shower, I know I'm dirty, and I'm trying to scrub. I'm trying to clean myself. So please be a little patient. And hopefully as we keep coming and associating with you, we will become more mature and more pure and more advanced and more experienced in this Vedic culture and Vedic process. So please pray for us that we can come up and be really good friends and assist you in whatever preaching savior that you may have here, for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru Granga, Radha Rasa Bihari, who's been so kind to us, and Sitaram Lakshman Hanumanji. We're very grateful for that, so thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Gurudeva ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki, Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol!